chose their king, their power was met, but we don't answer to Ottawa yet. No crown gave us what we've earned, just dirt and fire and lessons learned. Now the ground it shakes, the steel it groans, and Alberta walks alone. We ride sovereign steel through fire, through frost. We ain't the last, we're the line they lost. Alberta stands, never on its knees. A nation born in the forge of the free. From the rigs to the rails, the crops to the code, we lit their streets, we bore their load. They laughed at pride, they mocked the West, but freedom don't die, it just waits for the test. The cowboys ride, the farmers rise, 5 million strong under open skies. No leash, no lie, no foreign throne. This land is steel and it stands alone. We ride sovereign steel through fire, through frost. We ain't the last, we're the line they lost. Alberta stands, never on its knees. A nation born in the forge of the free. Can't kill the mountain, can't drown the plain, can't burn the spirit that won't be chained. He stares down east with a calloused hand and says, this time we draw the line in the land. We ride sovereign steel through fire, through frost. We ain't the last, we're the line they lost. Alberta stands, never on its knees. A nation born in
Welcome. It's Bruce Show with 7-Eleven Daily Summary. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you being here and being awake enough to participate. If you are watching, make sure to share this out. Get some more eyeballs on this information. We have got to wake up, Canadians. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so blessed that you're here. You can follow me on unscrewthenews.com, as you probably already know. And we have got so much to talk about. You know what? I'm very excited to be here. An extraordinary time to be alive. There is so much happening and so quickly. And it's partially why I try to do this on a nightly basis, because really we've got to there. I believe that part of why there's so much happening is that so you will turn off and just not pay attention and just say, you know what, just succumb to it and shut off. And I really don't want you to say no and to just, turn it off and become numb, because you have to be paying attention to what's going on around you. So this is why I do it, and I appreciate you being here and participating. So thank you for doing that. Tonight's episode, we're going to have a fantastic guest, a returning guest, Shane Wenzel from Shane Homes, right here in Calgary. A fantastic businessman, very community oriented, and I always appreciate our conversations, because he is so wise and really just so understanding of what the hell is going on. So I do appreciate to reach out to him. I love some of the videos that he has. They seem to really hit home for Western Canadians anyway. Anyway, I reached out to him because of one of the videos that he had really seemed to, hit home for me. I think it was called Why Canadians Are Leaving BC and Ontario, but we'll get into that here in a second. I always want to start off by saying thank you. Thank you to my friends, my family, and the people around me for bringing me to this situation. And obviously, the shaping, especially the last 5 years of Unscrew the News and Bruce Scholl, and getting to this point. So I do appreciate you. I also like to really support local businesses. It is important to create that that network. And I'm sure Shane will agree with me on this, but it's really important to have a network of people in case things are changing as far as the coming of products and getting products to your area. But it's really important to have that network of local businesses. I'm not your investment advisor, but I do suggest getting gold and silver, nuggetstacker.com. You can give them a call, 1-866-644-2121. You can go right through my website at unscrewthenews.com, go down to the link for nuggetstacker.com and get your gold and silver to protect your family's wealth. All right, we're going to get to unscrewing some news. I come to you from the heart of the battle-ready nation of Alberta. We bring you truth and optimism. Our goal is to break free from the media globalist mind control. It is January 21, 2026. If you can believe it, it's 26 years after the year 2000. This is episode number 256. Shane Wenzel, Canadians Are Leaving BC. Shane Wenzel, as I said to you, is a local home builder. And I know he has many other businesses that he's involved with. And like I said, very community oriented. And I do appreciate all of the things that he has, his take on a lot of things. And I think he's an all around good guy. So I want to welcome Shane to Unscrew the News. Thank you so much for joining me, sir. It is a pleasure to have you.
Well, Bruce, thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it.
Well, like I said, I do appreciate the take that you have on certain aspects, your political opinion. You tend to not, I guess, censor yourself too much. And I think that that's what we need to hear today, more than ever, is a real feeling as opposed to this, buttoned up businessman. I'm not going to say anything because I'm so afraid of losing my customers. I've never felt that way when I talk to you, so I do appreciate having a frank discussion with you.
Well, of course, that always plays around in the back of your head, but I think at the same time, when we're talking about these things, they're local issues, and I'm still a Calgarian at heart, even though we moved outside of the city here this past summer, but. Certainly it's a wonderful thing to be able to openly have conversations, even if we disagree on things. But why should anyone remain silent? I've never been able to understand that. We're not talking about difficult things. We're talking about current events, daily life.
Well, speaking of being silent, and part of my intro, I was saying that I think part of it. And I just realized it as I said it, but I think a part of why there's so much happening, I truly believe that there's so much coming at us because, the more that comes at us, maybe we shut down, and it really does shut down conversations sometimes because there is that divide, right? Where, like you said, and we're just having a conversation. Yes. We're not talking about hard things. But just having a conversation sometimes seems to be the very difficult part.
Well, we've seen that divide kick up more over the last 10, 11 years. And I think we can all kind of agree where that started from. And, this is not a world that we're used to because, Canadians are friends. We could have disagreements in the past and, we could still remain friends or family. But boy, oh boy, is that really, really become a sore spot over the past 10, 11 years.
Yeah. You know what? To sort of set the tone, I thought you and I were talking just before we hit record, and we had a mutual love of a certain subject, and I thought I'd bring up the video that I sort of mentioned. So stand by while I do that, and we can have a bit of a joke or a bit of a laugh while we watch this together here. But this is in Davos in Switzerland, and Rebel News, who I adore. I really do appreciate their they're forward. I mean, they're out there asking questions that all Canadians want to hear from these slime buckets. And I do appreciate him not attacking, but really asking this head slime bucket what he has to say. Well, he's got Katy Perry on his arm here. If you haven't seen it, Shane, let's watch it together here and see what happens. So we won't watch the whole thing. It's
I could
5
watch
minutes
it over and over.
It's much better than watching that guy in front of a podium in Ottawa any day. But let's just watch a few minutes of it.
Doing here at Davos. No comment. How come you never comment? This is the spirit of dialogue. Is the name of the conference. How come you won't dialogue, Prime Minister?
You're not getting into the spirit of dialogue here. Look at that.
Who paid for you to come here? Was it taxpayers? What do you make of the Federal Court of Appeal upholding the ruling that your martial law was illegal? They said you violated...
It's good to see you, Ezra. It's been a long time. How you been? How you been keeping?
Pretty well, but you didn't speak to me.
I'm worried about you.
I don't think you have.
You stopped speaking to me after the boxing match. I never heard from you again.
That's not true. Every time we tried to come into contact with you, you had us arrested.
I never had you arrested.
You beat up my colleague David Menzies. Your bodyguards did. Your personal bodyguards beat up David Menzies.
The RCMP, the official police of Canada that you're speaking against?
Yeah. Well, I think
you're not going to trust our institutions, Ezra. There's a problem there.
I think our institutions have been weakened by you, to be quite candid.
That is your right to believe that and to feel that. And that's certainly something that you've continued to spread, people not trusting our institutions. A certain skepticism is important, but spreading of misinformation and disinformation is just... you're responsible. I think you know that, Ezra. But, you've got a good little gig coming on. You've paid for all these people to come to Davos. I encourage you to continue to ask questions and challenge people, but to try and do it in a way that is grounded in facts and reality.
I got to stop with it. And when he said grounded in facts and reality, I just... coming from this guy.
Yeah. You can tell it took him a while to kind of kick back, or for the old lines to kick in for him. Eh?
Well, maybe he had to depress the right buttons on the back of his head or something. I know. He had to make sure they were rewound and queued up and ready to go, so that he could just spew it out whenever he was asked a hard question that he didn't like to answer. I don't know.
Well, and you see how he replies. It's misinformation, disinformation. That's your gig. You've got to make a living. You'll never get anything out of that guy. And thank God he's not our prime minister anymore, because that embarrassment is finally over.
Well, at least we're over that terrible, terrible shock. But so we had a little bit of a laugh. I appreciate Ezra doing that hard work. Now I want to talk about your video, and if you don't mind, I'm gonna cue this one up so that we can get a sense of what you were talking about, and that was why Canadians are leaving BC and Ontario. Do you want to preface this at all, or should I just play it and we'll see how that?
Let's jump into it.
All right, let's put this up here right now. All right. And I'm going to hit play.
Alberta. They're not just random visitors passing through. They're a reflection of something deeper. The result of government mismanagement and bad policy that has made parts of this country nearly unlivable. I mean, what looks like a small detail on the road is actually a warning sign of a much larger problem. We've allowed our country to become a maze of red tape and political vanity projects. I mean, the rising cost of living, the housing shortage, and ever-increasing tax burden, it didn't appear out of nowhere. They're a product of years of irrational decisions by bureaucrats and politicians who have, quite honestly, forgotten what their job is: to make life better for the people who put them there. Every new regulation and progressive announcement comes wrapped in good intentions, but the results always seem to be the same: higher costs, less freedom, more frustration. Governments have become addicted to interfering in areas they don't understand. Instead of tackling problems, they create new ones. The more they try to fix the housing crisis, for example, the more unaffordable homes have become. It's almost as if they're running experiments on the public and hoping no one notices the damage. Meanwhile, families are struggling to keep up. Young people have given up on ever owning a home.
Let me just stop it right there, because I think that was kind of the end of a key moment where we are in this unaffordable spiral. I don't know how old your children are, but mine are in their early 20s, and I'm so afraid. I'm not afraid. I have to rephrase that, but I think that it is desperately sad for anybody in that age range, like you say here, that they've given up. They don't even, that isn't even in their realm of possibility.
Well, and that's exactly the point of it all is, and obviously we see it on a daily basis from what we do with selling and building new homes. They're giving up. They're sitting there saying, how can I possibly ever get the down payment? And, fortunately, they have mom and dad to come and help them with that down payment. But, in some cases they're being helped out with the monthly mortgage payments. Because their dollar isn't going any further. Inflation has gone out of whack. Obviously, look at the cost of food. We were talking about that earlier on. Even if you're looking at a couple of steaks at the grocery store, which should be about $25, is double, and in some cases triple. I mean, how are you able to save anything when the cost of living is so bloody high? And I think that's the biggest concern. Eventually they just sit there and say, I've got to eat, I got to live. So I guess shelter has got to be, what we can afford or what we can afford to rent. They're giving up.
So, okay, so you're saying that you're seeing this. What are you seeing on the ground when you're talking to potential customers or potential not customers? How is that playing out as far as the so does that mean that the first time buyer is now 35 years old? Does it mean that they're waiting that much?
40 years old now, and that's the thing. And there are incentives, or were promises rather, made during the election by the Liberal Party where they were going to eliminate the GST portion off the first-time home buyer's purchase, so 5%. You can imagine with a $500,000 home, that $25,000 means a tremendous amount to people.
Yes.
It's
a significant amount of money, right?
Well, yeah. Well, and here was a promise that was made 10 months ago, and we still don't have it. It's tied up in Parliament. We were hoping that by the fall we would have it, then we were hoping by the new year we'd have it, and as it stands, I believe it still needs to go through third reading, and then you have to clear the Senate. So, are we going to have this by summer?
That would probably make a big difference for you and the home buyers, would it not? Like, what are you seeing?
I mean, you take out a segment of the marketplace and typically you stall it, and your first-time home buyers are getting in. You've got people moving laterally. You have people moving up. You have people moving down, even based on the age and stage of their life. But an unsexy fact, I guess, would be is that about the last 3 years, a lot of what's been fueling at least new home sales in Calgary, you've got people moving in to Calgary, moving into Canada as a country and moving to Calgary. So, you've got migration, immigration. That's really what's been fueling the housing market.
Right. And not the 20-year-olds.
Not as many as you would believe. I can honestly say that that stat would have been about 20-25% going back 5-6 years. Now you're lucky to see it as 10%.
I know that the last time that we talked, you were moving into the Dallas area. What is the comparison that you're seeing? I don't know. Maybe you're building a different product in Dallas, but are
Two totally different products, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was just going to ask
two
you
totally
if you,
different cities as well. I mean, what you're comparing here is, Calgary with with their heavily densified new home subdivisions, which I'm a big believer in. I mean, you want to get the maximum use out of the land, and there's so many more benefits from it. Where you look at Dallas proper, and I mean, that to me is the true definition of urban sprawl. And I'll argue that probably till the day I die, that they can build wherever. They could make a deal with a farmer, and they could have a shovel in the ground next year with a new subdivision. Our standard lot might be 28 feet wide for a single family home in Calgary, and that average square footage is going to be 2,500 square feet or so. Down there, the comparison is, we're working with 60 foot by 150 foot deep lots, and we're building a 4,100 square foot home, and we're doing it for $750,000.
Jeez.
So there's really two totally different markets, but there's
I think I'm moving to Dallas. Yeah.
Now, I will state this, and we're trying our best, and it's a bit of a challenge in that marketplace, is, the quality control is completely different as well.
Yeah.
I mean, America accepted something completely different than what we would consider a quality product up here.
I see. Oh, so I want to go back to Alberta and to Calgary.
Yes.
So as far as you mentioned it also in this video, and you and I have talked about this numerous times, is bureaucrats and obviously red tape. And this is a huge factor. And you've said this, I don't know, a number of times, but I mean, everybody that we talk to understands that the cities, our city is no different than probably many others. They're in the way of production, even though they say that they want to build more homes. They're actually hamstringing the industry. Is that not right?
They're the worst gatekeepers around it. It comes from the federal level, as we just discussed, the provincial level, and but primarily from your municipalities. And whether they know they're doing it or not, they are probably the largest problem with not only approvals, but with inspections and a lot of that red tape that goes along with it. We're trying to build a home for someone, and it shouldn't take 80% longer than it did 35 years ago when I started in this business.
Okay, let's just say that Shane Wenzel jumps onto council tomorrow. What would you change as far as the industry of home building? Because it is important, but that could also have a huge effect on the price if you were to reduce all of the red tape. So obviously that would help first-time home buyers that we were just talking about. So what would you suggest for somebody obviously looking to reduce bureaucratic red tape?
Well, unfortunately, that comes down to people. How many people do you need in a department? Why do you need this? And I think that's that it really goes back to the way we operate as a business. You question, why are we putting in another roadblock when this happens less than 1% of the time? And my rule of thumb has always been, if it doesn't happen 10% of the time, then it's not an issue. It's a gray area, and we don't change a policy or a procedure or add another layer simply because of that. So when you look at it, you look at a lot of the red tape that's been created. It's been created by less than 1% of the problems. Why are we trying to make everybody or every process equal when you should be penalizing certain people, certain groups?
Oh, I see. So they're putting restrictions into place for the 1% that aren't following the regulations that are there already, is what you're saying. I see.
Yes. Well, I mean, let's be honest. If a house fell down tomorrow, one of the homes we built, I'm the one who's getting sued. The city of Calgary can't get sued. The province can't get sued. But they're coming after me, and I'm responsible for it. So why do I have all the regulations then?
Good question. because they can make money from you. That's my thought.
Well, it comes back to the MGA, the Municipal Government Act, and that's a document that that the provincial government has prepared, and that's what municipalities are governed by. But it also states in there is that it gives them this framework, this box that they're allowed to work in, which doesn't include a lot of the things that we've seen past councils dive into with regards to social issues.
Well, let's hope that we are done focusing on social issues, and let's focus on removing garbage, fixing water mains, fixing potholes so that we have good roads so we can drive our cars and not have broken cars when we want to try to get to work. Let's hope that our new council, voted in October, is focused. You know what, you and I were talking about this, and I do believe that there's certainly a more citizen focused council today than there certainly was. Yeah. We have to talk about the water main issue, because this has now reared its ugly head on December 30th. And we're now facing it again. We're now facing it the second time in 2 years. And you and I were just talking about I think it's the dichotomy of the two situations. One was in the summer of 2024 and took, you probably know better than I do, but I think it was something like 6 months to get through that process. And then in 2025, now leading into 2026, I think it was, 3 weeks to actually get the
it was roughly 3 weeks. It happened when we were out of town, and of course I'm watching the videos on social media. But I was amazed that they pretty much cleared this all up after 3 weeks. So trying to figure out, I mean, obviously two different breaks, but very similar in size. What happened? Why did it go so quickly this time versus the last time?
I think it was, it's pretty telling. Well, if you were away, then maybe you didn't get the whole sense of it, but Calgarians were very unhappy with the process back in 2024. And we saw that when they didn't want to, or the saying of crying wolf, the boy who cried wolf.
Yes.
I got the sense that Calgarians really weren't very sympathetic to the squelching of councillors and the mayor about conserving water. I think that they probably had it up to here, and I'm pointing at the top of my head. I think they had it up to here with the nightly grillings from certain mayors, and it didn't seem like they were having any of it.
Well, and why should they? What the hell are you paying taxes for? What have you been paying taxes for all these years for? I mean, that, again, if I go back to the Municipal Government Act and what the responsibilities are of a municipality, I think that's probably the first one on there is maintaining the infrastructure of the city. That's the first item on the list: maintain the infrastructure. And yet, to parallel this, if I compare Calgary to Edmonton doesn't have a slush fund that they're working with, whereas Calgary has, as I recall, about $1.8 billion sitting there in a fund.
Right.
For what? Where did this fund come from? What is it there for? Well, that I would assume, or I think a lot of us would have assumed that that's exactly what it's there for. It's for infrastructure renewal. Right. So I thought it was with water issues. Why isn't Edmonton dealing with water issues? Well, maybe they took better care of it. I can't say for certain, but I mean, you certainly suspect that they lost track of their priorities over the last 10 or 15 years.
Well, that report, the independent report that came out, to sum it up, from what I understand, was that essentially in the last 20 years, instead of putting the money, which isn't sexy, into the ground and making sure that our infrastructure was working, they decided to siphon off some of that money so that they could put it aside for, I don't know, something that they decided was sexy and maybe help them get elected. That's my assumption.
Well, I mean, I think that's always the challenge you run into in the political game, and certainly it's not one that I wanted to follow as closely, but I find myself having to. Is that, yeah, I mean, it's sexy when you can upgrade a park in a community as part of a promise to get reelected, and I think that's where it comes back to, my old saying about term limits for one. But at the same time, you shouldn't be making promises like this, because that's not a part of your mandate. That's not a part of your job description. It's pretty clear what council is meant to do, and that is to keep the operation of the city running smoothly. That's what your taxes are paid for.
I have a problem hiring for other reasons other than merit as well, and we talked about this before, and I know a number of Calgarians have talked about this, but I think there needs to be some restructuring of the administration, and the head engineer probably should have been let go a little while ago, but
there's probably a few of them that should be replaced, and I mean. I mean, there's obviously a different process. Obviously, in my role in a private business, so you can make a decision on that relatively quick. But when you're dealing with, you're dealing with the council and you're dealing with a city manager or the higher ups there. There's obviously an assessment process that they have to go through. So to be fair, I mean, they've got to take a long, hard look at that, and hopefully they do. Because we shouldn't be disappointed at the end result. We shouldn't be running into issues like this. Like, fool me once, okay. Fool me twice, no. There's clearly a systemic problem, and it starts at the top. So you have to take a long, hard look at that and say, do I have the right people managing this asset, which is the city?
I wish that there was some accountability, because it doesn't seem like there's any accountability. If we're just talking about water mains, let's just use that, because there's many examples that we can go through. But personally, accountability seems to have been lost in the process of running this monstrous, I don't know, behemoth of a ship that doesn't seem to have any rudders. That maybe it doesn't even have a thruster. I don't know, but it seems to be rudderless out there floating through the ether. And how do you get back? Because really we should be running it as a business. Like, there should be some accountability that says at the bottom line, after we look at this water main, shouldn't there be somebody held accountable? Shouldn't there be somebody that holds the purse strings and I don't know. What do you have to say about it? Because you're a big business guy. I mean, you understand that you've got a bottom line that you have to attain.
Honestly, Bruce, I've always referred to a city as a business with a social conscience. And really, I still stand behind that statement. And some people hate me for saying it, but it is. I mean, this is a business of maintaining what a city has become. And to be fair, I mean, Calgary has seen tremendous growth. We've been the one city that's seen the largest benefit of all this movement towards Alberta. So there's certainly growth challenges there. So I guess I would have to be sympathetic to a certain degree. But I'm not sympathetic because somewhere along the piece, somebody lost sight of what their actual role and the goal is. And we're paying the price for it now, and that's what's most frustrating. You have to make some changes, and I know there's a process to go through. It's not the same as what the private sector would be, but there definitely has to be some changes. There has to be people hired who align with the goals of growth of this city, and they have to manage that growth properly. which means getting away from these nice to haves back to what do we need to not have another water main break? What do we need to maintain affordability in this city? I mean, there's lots of goals there, and I can only assume what that is as part of their strategic plan. But a long-term vision is we want to get this city up to, I think the last number I heard was 2 million people. Well, you're about 500,000 away. So how are you going to manage that over the next 20 years until you get to that? Or maybe it's only 10. I don't know what the complete plan is for the city. But definitely, I know they're targeting 2 million people.
Well, having a redundancy on the water main might be a good start.
Well, that redundancy has been in place. It's been planned for 17 years. I just can't understand why no one's implemented it. It's been there. They were talking about it then. I know some sort of drawings exist for it. They have a path. Why aren't we doing it?
It's astounding. What else did we want to talk about? Because now I'm having a bit of a blank because I've got stuck on Calgary and in the cycle of getting through Calgary. I'm just scrolling through here and looking. I don't know if you had anything to say in regard to Mark Carney. Did you have any thoughts? Because obviously the parasites have met in Davos just the last couple of days, about to tell us, and going back to the steaks, going back to meat, telling us what we can and cannot eat, or what we should or should not eat, and how much energy we should be using, and we shouldn't be using any oil or gas, and we should be eating bugs instead of having steaks. But to me, it seems like they're grasping at straws. They really seem to be looking for some sort of a life preserver as far as this the Larry Finks, the Klaus Schwabs, the Bill Gates, any of these characters. What are your thoughts on what you're seeing there?
Well, if you can stomach going through a lot of these videos, and trust me, it is difficult at times when you're watching people who feel superior to the rest of the population out there talking about what needs to happen, and yet, they're the crowd of do as I say, not as I do. It is really hard to stomach. You're talking about, well, obviously some noble things of how can you reduce poverty around the world? How can you keep people safe, happy, healthy, warm, and well fed? Those are all great things, but at the same time, when they start dictating, I can't have a gas stove and I have to use less energy, and yet, I find that they become the biggest hypocrites, especially, here in Canada, where you sit there and say, well, you're the ones causing me to use more energy. But did you want to restrict me on my energy use? You want to restrict me on my water use? You want to effectively tell me how to live. And I've never been one for that, but I guess that must be that more conservative side in me, where live and let live is a motto you grow up in. And this group just doesn't seem to think that way. They seem to have this opinion of themselves as that this world needs saving and we're going to do it, and people are just going to follow, and that's the end of it. So we have elected officials, although you or I didn't elect them. They're speaking on behalf of Canadians, and you sit there and say, that wasn't a part of your platform. I didn't agree to that. But if you drill down on the numbers, you're a little over, really 30% of Canadians voted for a federal government.
Right.
Because we had such a poor turnout in the last election. That's what you got. 30% of Canadians elected this government. And
they were probably in the East that voted for them.
Oh, sure. I mean, we saw the numbers. I mean, all you had to do was, sadly, listen to Rosie Barton talk, and when it was over before it hit the Manitoba border.
Right. All right. So one other triggering things that I want to bring up and just ask you your opinion on. So Mark Carney, your friend and mine,
Yeah.
has now come out and professed his love for China, and even though he did campaign on they were the biggest threat to Canada,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on this wishy-washy, flip-floppy, elbows up Mark Carney?
Well, he might have pissed off our neighbors to the south so bad that we actually do need some of that diversity. Well, I mean, let's step back. I will agree that we should be diversifying our trade partners. I
Correct.
don't know if I would necessarily want to do it with the regimes that he's doing, especially China. But that could have been something that was beat into me years ago by my grandmother, who never trusted China. But you do need to diversify your trade partners.
Sure.
But what you don't do is piss off your best trading partner, your closest ally, right next door to you. I'm still baffled by all of that. But that's playing a geopolitical game that I'm just not familiar with, and not a lot of people are. But certainly you have to maintain that relationship with the U.S. In fact, I would, this might be the perfect opportunity still to rewrite that. But I've always believed that we should have more of a North American economic union, however you want to look at that. We should have different trade across the border. We should share more economic policies, political policies, human rights policies. You can still remain distinctly Canadian, but maybe we should only have one currency. Maybe we should only have effectively one military. But you see what's happening over in the EU, and how they're forming this big block of countries. I don't know if we can survive going forward with just being little old Canada with our almost 41 and a half, 42 million people living here.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of pale in population by comparison to the opposite side of the world.
Right. Well, I don't know if you saw the speech. I happened to be watching a good portion of Donald Trump speaking to Davos today, and I want to read out a quote that he said, because he was talking about taking over Greenland, and whether you like it or not, it doesn't necessarily matter. But his quote was that he's planning on taking Greenland and making the Golden Dome, which will then in turn be protecting Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something that I thought was quite interesting. He said, "Canada lives because of the U.S. Remember that, Mark." And he doesn't appreciate us, though. I thought it was really quite interesting the way that this is now playing out. I mean, like you said, he's pissed off our closest neighbor. 80 to 85% of our exports would typically go to the U.S., but that has maybe effectively, I don't know, because of the West is a little bit different. Definitely in Alberta, we have a much closer relation with our U.S. partners down to the south, and I think it has less to do in relation to us and the U.S. But for the vast majority of Canada and the U.S., I think it's really a strained relationship at this point. I don't think that the Americans feel that way from what I'm seeing overall, but Canadians over in the East seem to have this, we don't need them. Maybe we're going to invade, the United States so that we can protect Greenland. And I think, oh my gosh, they're completely off their rockers. But this quote about, Canada lives because of the U.S. I mean, really, we are so dependent on the U.S. for our protection.
Yes.
Now this guy has gone off and really put us into the gutter as far as our favorite and best trading partner. It's pretty sad and and I'm glad your business doesn't, I guess, need American influence or in Americans to come and buy your product. So that's a good thing, I guess. But I don't know if I had a question there, but it's more like a statement. I'm pretty shocked about what's gone on in the last couple of days.
Well, I think there's a number of people that are shocked, or at least the people who are paying attention are shocked. And to quickly answer that comment at the end, No, we don't need the Americans to buy our products, but at the same time, we do need them to buy our products because every time Trump gets into office, he starts opening up the doors in the softwood lumber dispute, and
Right.
a good example of one of the items that we love to trade, especially from Western Canada. They love our lumber. In fact, we ship a tremendous amount of lumber down there. Could he open up their own markets tomorrow? No. They're still stuck with us to a certain degree. Could they cut that in half in the next 5 to 10 years? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. But I mean, if you're motivated to, you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
In their case, let's face it, Trump won't be around 3 years from now. He's already, a year into his term. I think he celebrated that today.
Yeah.
We could have a liberal government for at least another, 3 years ourselves. But, even if you were to change out the government, how quickly could you renew a relationship? You probably could, obviously depend.
Yeah. Oops. We lost you there. Oh, yeah. You're just muted. Yeah, there you are. Oh, you're still muted for some reason. I don't know what happened.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
I'm off. Yeah. But it depends on who's in office, and I mean, I kind of look at, as Trump as a bump in the road. I mean, would I want him as my president? I don't know. He kind of scares me because he's so off the rails in a lot of different ways. But who's better, a Donald Trump who's a nationalist, protectionist? He certainly loves his country and he wants them to succeed. On the other hand, we've got a Carney here in Canada, and he certainly doesn't have the best interest of Canada in mind, or at least Western Canada.
Well, no, okay. So one last thing that I want to say, about that is, to me, it seems like his priority is Brookfield's success, and I kind of joke that maybe they'll rename Canada into Brookfield Land or something like that.
Well, I mean, that's certainly not helping his cause any, is it?
No, certainly not.
There seems to be a benefit for a publicly traded entity, and Carney's a large investor in that, and former chair. So it's obviously concerning. I mean, I haven't taken the time myself to dig into what's true and what's theory more than anything, but it's a concern, for sure, and I mean, you just. Being an Albertan and a Westerner my entire life, all you want is fairness to play out here in Canada. We want to be seen and treated the same way as the rest of the people down east, the other 60% of Canada, and unfortunately, we don't get that fair shake. And people will argue with me about that, but I've been hearing the term whiners since I was it was in papers. And it still hasn't changed. Now they call us, extortionists, terrorists, every other name in the book. I'm sure you've been called it. I've been called it. And you sit here and say, well, come live in this side of the country for about 10 years and tell me how you feel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where you saw after the last election, you could call it because it was so obvious. You get a liberal government, of course, the separation sentiment is going to kick up, and it's going to kick up stronger than ever. How can it not?
Well, as we've talked about a number of times already in this conversation, the price of things is just, honestly, I do okay for myself. I just don't know how somebody living on, just above minimum wage, I don't know how they can survive, honestly.
I don't either, but I mean, that just that fuels a bunch of other conversations. Is why is food that much more expensive? Yeah,
but it's not like you said. There's taxes, the carbon taxes on everything, and that's going to continue to go up, and it's only going to drive up the price of everything. And I don't see the benefit. Whether you like him or not, Trump is about his own country and his country first. I do want someone, and in Danielle Smith, I do get a lot of that sense in the province here. But as far as federally, I certainly don't get that person. And we haven't had it at least for 10 years, if we had it even before that. But wouldn't it be nice if our country was concerned about all of Canada and not just the area that they reside in? So
Well, that's why you see these rising movements, Canada first. I mean, how many different countries can you support and send money to? Like, if we send any more to the Ukraine, I mean, I feel like I'm going to crawl through my computer screen at somebody. It's baffling to me why we're the front runner here, and yet we have issues back home. We've seen poverty rates grow substantially in this country. Obviously we talk about the cost of housing, but people losing their homes, living on the streets, going to food banks just to eat because they can't afford anything in Canada. And, you can get arguments from from one side saying, "Pay me a fair wage." Well, it's all relative. It's all relative. If you want to pay everybody $30 or $50 an hour, go for it. But the cost of everything else goes up along with it.
That's right.
Labor is one component of all of this, and I think that comes back to people just understanding the full economics behind how we live.
Well, Shane, you know what? I appreciate your time. It's I don't know if there's anything that you want to finish off with, but
well, it's always good to have the conversation. I appreciate you having me on, Bruce.
Yeah, I love having these conversations, and it wasn't anything specific, but there's so much, as you and I have said a number of times, there's so much happening. You can't just focus on one specific item because they really do play against each other. There's one thing leads into another. I sort of mentioned at the beginning that Davos and the elites talking down to us is not unlike our city council, that we had, especially before, that knew way better than we did on how to spend our money. And, there's counselors that even said, I didn't get hired to do the work for the citizens. I was actually here to do the work of some other ideology or some other prescription. I don't know what it was, but it's pretty interesting to see, and I hope that at least in Calgary, in council, I know that there's a lot of citizens that are certainly paying attention, a lot more attention, and want a better city for us. So it's an interesting time, and God bless you for being here and speaking out. So continue to do that. I appreciate that.
I'm happy to do that, as everyone should.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. If you guys are still watching, make sure to share this out. Get some more eyeballs on this information. Shane needs to get the word out. We all need to get the word out. We all need to be awake and paying attention to what's going on around us. So thank you so much for being here, Shane. And yeah.
Thank you.
All right, all right. If you don't mind sticking around, we'll just say goodbye to the audience. Thank you so much for being here. Keep your head on a swivel. Let's stay sane together. And this is Bruce. I'm out of here. Thank you so much for watching Unscrew the News. I appreciate your participation in freedom in Canada. Share this information and help others to wake up. God bless.